Well, good morning, everybody. Don Cramer with the Cramer Group at Urban Nest Realty. Hope you're having a wonderful day. It is Wednesday. It is time for our weekly recap. So, cheers to you this morning. If this is your first time tuning in to our Wednesday recap edition, do us a big favor, hit the like button or comment below if you've got any questions about Las Vegas real estate or some of the numbers we're going through. So we got a little bit of stats change, and we want to read through here and kind of give you a little bit of our take here at the moment. So let's dive in. So if we take a look real quick at the weekly numbers, week over week, this week we start with 4,909 single-family homes available for sale. Now that is down 0.2% from last week's number of 4,919, basically 10 properties. Now, of the 4,909, 4,834 are traditional sales, 37 are foreclosures. 37 are short sales, and 38 are foreclosures. Now, the bigger change is in the under contract portion of this report. So if we look at the under contracts, this week we have 4,136 properties under contract, down 5.2% from last week's number of 4,363 homes. Now, of those, the 4,136, 3,984 traditional sales, 125 are short sales, and 27 are foreclosures. Now, other couple of key stats we have been monitoring are back on markets. We had 182 properties, and then we had 521 price decreases last week, and then the median home price still is at $325,000. So what do we make of this drop here in flattening? So the last couple of weeks, we've seen a slight flattening of inventory. We saw a bit of a flattening of under contracts. Now, last week, we just ended the month of July. So if we're kind of running a 7-day window for the week of August 3rd, we were counting the first few days of the month of August. So we had a month of July, month-end close, some expireds, things of that nature. So we probably had a flushing out of properties that were under contract over a 7-day period because as we had a month change in there. So I think that has something to do, partially to do with it. The other thing too, we are kind of late into our summer period of real estate. So this is probably the period where we're in the last week or two of peak demand or high demand as people make decisions about being in place, especially with families for schooling. Now, those that don't have family, children needs for schooling, obviously those will, those types of sales and purchases will carry us throughout the year. But the majority of them try to get their properties in place in time to get prepared for school. So we'll probably see, see still a pretty healthy pickup, but we may sort of continue to see a bit of a flattening and a bit of softening in the under contracts. But at that same time, we're seeing listings evening out as well. Again, we're always keeping an eye on the weekly information. So we're going to go over the week changes here. So if we take a look at that over the 7-day window, and this again leads me a little bit towards maybe what might have happened with regards to how many properties were under contract and such. Last week, over the 7-day window from Monday to Monday, we had 802 new listings. We had, again, there's the back on market of 182 and the price decreases of 521. Now, the under contracts for that whole period were 1,039. So a little more than 200 homes over that 7-day window went into contract versus new onto the market. So we are still seeing, I think that sort of week over week demand still holding steady. And it also, if you see solds, we had 960 solds over that 7-day period too. So that we probably had a lot of closings that were that under contract number that I think kind of filtered into that little bit of a drop off. So we're going to kind of continue to see what goes on over the next week as well. But one thing I did also take a look at, and we'll probably dive into this a little more so when we do our July recap, as to what demand looks like from a searching standpoint, showing standpoint, because those are some of our leading indicators to say, okay, are we still seeing demand as we move further into August, and possibly is there any carryover that may help may keep the housing market robust into September. Now, the last slide we'd like to kind of always go over here real quick, the houses, the active listings and under contracts by price point. So you can see there was actually just kind of a general scattering of, scattering, however you want to call it, of properties that were available for sale and under contract. So this week we had under $250,000 segment, we had 458 homes available for sale, and that's down from 10 homes last week of 468. Under contracts were also a little lower last week over week, so we had 546 properties under contract that are under 250,000 versus the previous week's number of 576. Our core market segment of the 250,000 to 500,000 property, we have currently 2,840 active listings. That's actually up by 8 listings versus last week's number of 2,832. Under contracts, we actually dropped a bit, so we are at 2,907 this week under contract, versus last week's number of 3,056. Now, in the 500,000 to 750 segment, slight change this week, so we're at 791 available homes for sale versus 794 last week. However, under contracts, we were at 466 this week versus last week's number of 493. In the mid-luxury segment, that 750 to $1 million price point, again, a slight change with 300 active listings versus last week's number 302. Also under contracts, not a big change there. We have 132 under contract versus last week's number 137. Lastly, in the $1 million segment, again, no major change. 495 homes currently for sale that are priced above $1 million versus last week's number of 494. And under contract this week, we have 127 homes under contract versus last week's number of 130. So those are the week over week stats. Again, most of the market's still showing some pretty good strength. I feel that a fair amount was tied to the month-end change, but we're going to see how that plays out in next week's numbers. Additionally, too, we're going to be having an upcoming episode of Coffee with Cramer and Colleen where we discuss in depth the July stats, and we had a very, early signs where we had a very strong July with regards to the housing market, even with the coronavirus. You almost wouldn't factor in some of those statistics in the being affected by coronavirus is what I'm saying. So that's this week's stats. If you have any questions about the Las Vegas real estate, whether it's buying, selling, or investing, definitely do us a big favor. Reach out to us. We'd love to answer your questions. Love to set up a Zoom call or a FaceTime, because Colleen and I are here for you as a resource for you to gather the information you need about buying, selling, or investing in real estate. So again, we're going to kind of keep an eye on these numbers looking at next week. The good news is interest rates, as we shot on our video back on Monday, still staying extremely low. Had a great talk with a friend of mine, a lender, yesterday. She was seeing quite a few applications come in, both in the purchase but also in the refi. But purchase loans for homes are still showing very attractive interest rates right now. So if you're in a position, and you might have seen our episode from a little over a week ago where we sort of compared price points versus interest rates and what your affordability amount was in a monthly payment, it's pretty significant how a low interest rate can affect your purchasing power. So that's it. We wish you a wonderful Wednesday. Cheers to you out there today. It's going to be a hot one. Actually, I'm checking in with Colleen. We've got a listing getting ready to come live, so we're going to be catching up on some photos and some videos later today. You may see a couple of social media posts. So Appreciate you tuning in. Have a wonderful week. Thanks for tuning in. Take care. Bye-bye.